The record should reflect that the jury has joined us again. Welcome back, everyone. The prosecution may call its next witness.
Debra Thomas Kazar.
Good afternoon. Could I have you raise your right hand so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Okay. Debra Dolores Thomas Kazar. DAYBRA DOLORES THOMAS-KIZZAR.
Ms. Tish-McGuire, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Were you at the Century 16 movie theater on July 19th of 2012 in Aurora, Colorado?
Yes.
Did that go into the early morning of July 20th of 2012?
Yes.
What can you tell the jury about what you remember about the day of July 19th prior to going to the movie theater that day?
My husband and I were at a friend's house visiting him, and that's pretty much, he lives in Green Valley Ranch, so it was close to the theater.
What's your husband's name?
Marcus.
What's his full name?
Marcus Kazar.
When did you and your husband decide to go to the movie theater?
I would say it was like a couple of hours before, about 8-ish.
What time did you arrive at the theater that evening?
The first time we arrived, we were there to buy tickets, and that was about 11 o'clock.
Did you stay at the movie theater once you got there at 11?
No.
What'd you do?
We went back home and dropped our dog off at the house, and then we went to the theater.
What time was it when you got back to the theater?
It was about 11:45.
What'd you do when you got to the theater?
We bought tickets, kind of scanned the concession stand, and then went into the theater.
Where did you find seats in the theater?
I would say kind of the top half of the theater.
What'd you do while you were waiting for the movie to start?
One of my favorite things is to kind of scan the room and look at the excitement of the people and like watch the previews and stuff. So we just took our seats and just kind of talked and hung out.
What happened during the movie that night?
I would say about 20 minutes into the movie, a canister went across the screen.
Okay, now, if this is the movie theater screen, could you describe for the jury where the canister went in the theater?
I was from my right to the left of the screen.
What do you recall happening after that?
I heard about 3 shots in the air, like a pow, 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 really bright and about like a yellowish, whitish color.
So did you actually see the flashes from that
Yes,
gunfire?
they were kind of towards the bottom right-hand side of the theater. My
So
right.
again, if you're facing the movie theater screen, what do you remember after seeing those flashes?
After the flashes, I remember my husband telling me to get down.
Objection. Hearsay.
Your Honor, again, present, sense, impression, excited utterance. It's just the effect on the listener.
Why don't counsel approach, please?
What did your husband
Hold
tell you?
on. Sorry. The objection is overruled. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. What did your husband say to you?
He told me to get down,
What'd you do?
and I got down.
What do you remember after that?
I remember being on the floor and just kind of saying, like thinking to myself, what's going on?
Were you scared at that point?
Very scared. I wasn't sure what was going on. I was on the floor with my hands over my head.
Your Honor, if the record can reflect that the witness is putting her hands over her head in a motion like she was protecting her head.
Okay.
I was laying flat on the ground. As I was laying there, I could feel gunshots hitting the front of the seat. And
The seat that's in front of you as you're
Yes.
laying down?
And I could just hear screams and moans and gunshots.
What do you recall after that?
Um, just, just a lot of screaming. I could smell gunpowder in the air. And then I was just laying there on the ground, listening to the gunshots.
Did the gunshots ever change while you were in the theater? Did they all sound the same to you?
It seemed like it was quicker at the beginning, and then they kind of slowed down. But I could still hear the whizzing of the bullets as they were hitting the seats and going past the seats.
Did you ever see a shooter in the theater that night?
No.
Did you ever see anything other than the canister and those flashes of light that you initially saw?
No.
What do you recall after you're down on the ground hearing gunshots?
I remember a phone call being made on the other side of me as I'm laying down. A phone call to someone's mom.
Objection, Judge, as to hearsay.
We'll move on, Your Honor.
Let's give the microphone to Mr. King, please. So that
I have the microphone
do you
on,
have
Judge.
one? Okay, great, thank you. The objection is sustained. Please move on.
So after you heard that phone call, what do you recall happening next in the theater?
At one point, it seemed like it went on forever, but someone said,
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
All
Get
right,
up.
so without, you're all right.
Yeah.
So without saying what the people said, what do you recall observing and doing yourself?
after a while, I got up and started to leave the theater.
All right. Your Honor, if I may approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 1140.
Yes.
I have no objection to 1140.
All right, are you moving to admit this exhibit, Ms.
Yes,
Tish-McGuire?
yes, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, without objection, P-TR-1140 is admitted and may be published.
You could please have 1140. All right, so there's a little mouse in front of you. You could move that around a little bit. Great. Now, if you could use the mouse to describe where you and your husband were seated that evening.
Right here.
Okay, so that M right there, does that stand for Marcus?
Yes.
Oh,
And the D is for me, Debra.
great. Could you show on that diagram where it was that you saw the flashes of light?
Oops, sorry.
Oh, your fancy techniques up
Oh,
there.
okay.
More advanced than you knew. All right, we can have her bring back that exhibit for you. All right, there you go. We're going to hire you. Okay, so then, okay, so that's where you saw the flashes in the
Yes.
theater. All right, could you also show the jury where you saw that canister go throughout the theater?
Went from the right side to the left.
All right, now if you could just start to describe your exit path on that diagram for the jury and just stop if there's something that you remember happening.
Okay. We exited towards the left of the theater.
They're having a hard
sorry.
time hearing you, so you can unbend the microphone, you can make it straight and just
Okay.
make sure it faces your mouth and get close to it, okay? Thank you.
We exited towards the left of the theater, or to my left at least, and there were people in the aisles. As I walked towards the aisle, there was a lady that was laying down in the aisle. I walked over her, and then I proceeded up the aisle and to the exit right here.
Did your husband leave with you at that point in time?
I was before him, and he was kind of held back in the aisle.
So you guys got separated at that time?
Yes.
Right, what happened when you left the theater?
I ran down the hallway area. I kind of hung back at him, waiting to see if he was coming. And when he came in my visual, he just kind of waved to me, keep going. And I ran out of the theater, and I could see people just sitting outside of the theater, just kind of waiting around. The fire alarm was going off, but I don't remember a sound, just the flash.
When you left the theater, could you still hear gunfire?
No.
Gunfire had stopped by the time you left
Yes.
the theater. Were you ever able to notice anything about your body from that evening?
I remember feeling like warm liquid on me, but I didn't feel any pain. I don't think it was from me. And then I felt something falling on my legs when I was laying down in the aisle, but didn't know what it was.
Did you have any marks on your legs?
A couple of little specks.
Did you need to seek any medical treatment for that?
No.
I have no further questions of this witness. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. King, do you have any cross-examination?
I do not, Judge.
All right. And the jury does not appear to have any questions for this witness. May this witness be released from her subpoena?
Please, Your Honor.
Without objection.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Call your next witness, please.
Marcus Kazar?
Good afternoon. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please be seated. If you could hand me that exhibit, I'll take it away. Or unless you're
I'll
gonna...
have a different one for
All
him, Your
right,
Honor.
thank you. Could you please tell us your name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Marcus Levi Kazar, Marcuslevikizzar.
Ms. Tish McGuire, you may proceed.
Good afternoon.
How's it going?
Were you at the Century 16 movie theater on July 19th, 2012?
Yes.
Did that go into the early morning of July 20th, 2012?
Yes.
Now, was that in Aurora, Colorado?
Yes.
What could you tell a jury about what you remember from the day of July 19th prior to going to the movie theater that day?
We had a dog date with one of my buddies.
What's dog day?
No, a dog date.
A dog date. Okay,
yeah.
what's a dog date?
We just got a dog, and so we were introducing them and stuff. Had dinner with a buddy, and asked him if he wanted to go see a movie with us. He declined, and after there we proceeded home to drop the pup off.
Who's we?
Me and my wife,
Who's your wife?
Debra Thomas Kazar.
What'd you do after you dropped the dog at home?
Proceeded to the movie theater, and we had bought our tickets before we dropped the dog off, and then came back and went to the theater and sat down.
What theater number did you go into?
Theater 9.
What'd you do when you got into the theater that night?
We did some people watching, and just kind of was looking around and just seeing who was coming in and stuff like that.
Anything unusual happened before the movie started?
No.
What happened during the movie that night?
Could you ask again?
Sure. What do you recall happening during the movie that night?
So we were sitting there, and we were watching the film, and I saw a figure come through the exit door or into the auditorium. A canister had went into the air from the right side over to the left.
That's if you're facing the movie theater
Yes.
screen?
And
How would you describe that figure for the jury?
it was black. It kind of, to me, it kind of looked like somebody in a costume, if, from just kind of a glance, I guess. And then,
What do you recall happening after that canister went across the theater?
I kind of chuckled a little bit because I thought that this was, this is the final Batman movie, kind of go out with a bang. And so I saw the canister and I kind of laughed, and I was kind of, pretty stoked about it. And then I saw a pistol come and a flash came out, and was kind of, still kind of riding it a little bit, kind of had some excited adrenaline coming, and then chaos kind of broke in front of me. So I hit the floor,
Did you smell anything in the theater at that time?
Not at the point that I hit the ground, no. I just heard a lot of gunshots going off. And then from there, I felt some, kind of some stinging, some needle, like in my calves. Don't really know what it was. And then from there, I smelled tear gas. And I noticed it was tear gas because of basic training in the Army. So that was a pretty quick reference after that of what it was. And it was pretty distinct of the smell that it was.
So what are you hearing at this point in time when you're on the ground in the theater?
I'm hearing a lot of screaming and stuff, and a lot of shots, and then my wife tells me that.
Objection, Judge Hearsay.
And you can just talk about what you observed. I apologize, Your Honor.
That's okay, the objection is sustained. Go ahead, Ms. Tishman, go ahead.
You can just talk about what you observed your wife doing without her saying.
She had her hands on my feet, and then like I said, the shots were just continuing, and so I was pretty much like, the weapon's gonna jam, because the experience of the shooter was not as qualified that I'm used to from the weapons from the military that I've trained in.
So let's tell the jury a little bit about that. So what weapons have you trained in?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
And Your Honor, this witness has testified that he was in the Army.
All right, why don't you approach?
Thank you, Your Honor.
right, the objection is sustained in part and overruled in part.
What type of weapon did it sound like to you as being fired in the theater at that point in time?
Sounds like an M16,
Do you have experience with it?
which is equivalent to a AR-15.
All right, and I'm just going to ask you to use that microphone a little bit closer to you, too. If you could just repeat that so the jury could hear you.
It sounds like an M16, which is equivalent to AR-15. It's an assault rifle.
Is that weapon that you have experience with from the Army?
Yes.
All right, so while you're hearing that type of gunshots in the theater, what do you do after hearing those gunshots?
I was just sitting, again, like I said, I was sitting waiting for the weapon to jam.
Now, after what you believed happened, the weapon jammed, what do you recall after that?
Somebody in the section said, "Let's get out of here." And then we crawled. Everyone crawled to the end of the section. And then we ran up the stairs out the upper exit.
Your Honor, if I may approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 1139.
Yes.
Do you recognize that document?
Yeah.
Does it fairly and accurately represent where you recall sitting in the theater on July 20th of 2012?
Yes.
Right, Your Honor, at this time I would move for the admission of People's Exhibit 1139.
Is there any objection, Mr. King?
No.
Without objection, P-TR-1139 is admitted and may be published.
And, Your Honor, actually, at this time I would ask for the court's permission for Mr. Kazar to approach the 3D diagram with me with the cordless microphone.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Kazar, there's a cordless microphone up there. So you could grab that and come meet me down here. All right, now if you could stay up here with me so the jury can see. Could you please show the jury on here where you and your wife were seated that evening?
Probably somewhere in this section, one of these 3 rows.
All right, one of these.
No, probably one of these 2 rows.
Okay, and approximately where in here do you think? We just pick a row approximately.
Probably about right here.
Okay, and where were you and where was your wife?
I was sitting here, and she was sitting here.
And just for the record, that would be Miss Thomas Kazar?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is myself.
Okay. And where was it in this diagram that you saw that canister?
Over in the corner over here, and it came up and landed, I'd say somewhere probably around in this section, maybe up in the handicap, just somewhere around here.
Where was it that you saw the figure of the shooter in the theater?
In this section right over here.
Okay, and if you could, what if you need to go around a little bit to point exactly
Okay.
where you were?
Probably right in this area.
Okay, is that the only location you saw the shooter in the theater?
Yes.
Okay. And where was the shooter when you saw the shooter with a gun?
He probably kind of approached a little bit into this section.
Okay. Now could you describe for the jury about your exit path as you left the theater?
So we had crawled out over here and then came up the stairs and then exited through the top area around here.
Did you have to stop at any point as you came up the stairs?
Yes, I got caught up probably maybe right in the next section as I was exiting. A woman had screamed, "Help me, I'm gonna die." So I picked her up and put her on her feet and kind of continued to move because I lost sight of my wife and I needed to maintain visual contact with her.
Okay. And then you guys you exited through this door.
Yes.
Now when you get to the top here, is there a balcony behind here?
Yeah, it's an upper level.
The upper level? And where was it that you were finally able to see your wife again?
Right out the exit door. So, yeah, out. She was like probably on the other side of the wall.
All right, you can go up and take your seat again. Thank you very much, Mr. Kazar, and you can turn off that microphone. What happened when you got to the other side of that doorway and you saw your wife again? If you could tell the jury about how'd you got out of the theater that night?
Well, I was in a different mental state at that point. So a lot of that's kind of fuzzy, but I know I did some motionings and I was just thinking I need to get out of the kill zone. So that was pretty much what I was running off of. I was kind of in a whole different area at that point. I was not in the theater.
You were trying to get yourself to safety.
Yes.
Do you recall having an opportunity afterwards to observe any injuries on your body?
Yeah. When I got to a safe location, I was able to, I saw that my wife's dress was kind of with blood, so panicked a little bit, and I had sustained a little bit of injuries on my calves, and I'm not sure if it was from pellets, maybe the plastic in the seating, or possibly shrapnel, but it got looked at, everything was fine, so.
And where, could you tell the jury where on your legs that was?
It was on the back of my calves.
Was that both your right and left calf?
Yes.
I have no further questions for this witness. Thank you, Your Honor.
Is there any cross-examination, Mr. King?
No, thank you.
And the jury does not appear to have a question for this witness. May he be released from his subpoena?
Please, thank you, Your Honor.
Without objection.
All right, thank you, sir. Call your next witness, please. Thank you, sir. Kathy, here you go.
Patty Hopkins.
Here's another one, Kathy. Good afternoon. Do you solemnly swear or affirm on a penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
It's Patricia Ann Hopkins, Patriciannhopkins.
Make sure you speak into the microphone, please. You can move your seat, and you can also move the microphone. Make sure that it is directly in front of your mouth, okay?
We'll try that.
Great, thank you. All right. Ms. Pearson, you may proceed with your direct examination.
Ms. Hopkins, where are you employed?
The Aurora Police Department Crime Laboratory.
What do you do for the Aurora Police Department Crime Lab?
My official title is criminalist. I'm a chemist who analyzes unknown substances to determine what they are.
How long have you worked at the Aurora Police Department?
Since 1990.
Were you at some point asked to work on the Century 16 Theater shooting case?
Yes, ma'am.
And in what kind of a capacity?
I was asked to respond to the autopsies of the victims.
When did those take place?
July 20th and July 21st.
Was there more than one autopsy occurring at the same time?
Yes,
Were there two coroners doing autopsies?
there were.
Who were the coroners who were doing autopsies?
Dr. Michael Doberson and Dr. Kelly Lear-Call.
Now, we previously heard from CSI Faye Borquez, who responded to the autopsies. Was she there at the same time that you were there?
She was.
Which coroner did you work with regard to the autopsies?
Dr. Lear-Call.
What were your duties?
To photograph the autopsy and to collect evidence from the victims.
And to be clear, today we're not going to introduce any photographs from the autopsies, but we are going to instead talk about the items that you collected at the autopsies.
Okay.
Do you recall which autopsy you observed first?
I do.
Which one was that?
It was for the little girl, Veronica Moser Sullivan.
When did that autopsy take place?
It was on the 20th. I can't recall the exact time that it started.
Do you recall that it was about 7:45 in the morning?
That sounds about right, yes.
I'm going to hand you some exhibits. No. I'm going to hand you what has been marked as People's Exhibits 438, 439, 440, 441, and 442. Do you recognize all of these exhibits?
I do.
Are these items that you collected during the autopsy of Veronica Mosier Sullivan on July 20th of 2012?
They are.
Your Honor, I would move for the admittance of People's Exhibits 438, 439, 440, 441, and 442.
Is there any objection, Ms. Brady?
Can we approach, please?
Yes. All right, the objection as to items P-TR-438 and 439 is sustained. The other items, which are P-TR-440, 441, and 442, are admitted without objection.
Turning first to People's Exhibit 440, could you explain to the jury what that item is?
All the packaging or just the contents?
The contents, please.
I have this marked as,
And keep your voice up to the microphone,
sorry,
please.
I have this marked as spent bullet, left hip, Moser Sullivan.
And if you could hold it up, please, so we can see what it is and try to identify it within that, all of that
Here's
packaging
the-
that you have there.
Projectile right here.
People's Exhibit 441.
I have this label as expended bullet tip, back of right knee, Moser Sullivan. And it's right here.
And People's Exhibit 442.
This is labeled bullet fragments, abdominal cavity, Moser Sullivan.
Can you explain a little bit about what you see in that bag, since right now the jury can't see it? We'll have them see it later, but.
There are what appear to be three fragments that were recovered from Veronica, her abdominal cavity.
Thank you. Now, following the autopsy of Veronica Moser Sullivan in the early morning hours of July 20th, did you do other autopsies on that day on July 20th?
Yes.
Do you recall whose autopsy was next and what time you did that?
John Larimer was the second victim whose autopsy was performed by Dr. Learcall. Again, I don't recall the exact times that the autopsy started.
Was it in the afternoon?
It was later in the day, yes.
Now, from Mr. Larimer's autopsy, were any fragments or bullets recovered?
No, there were not.
Did it appear nonetheless that he had been a victim of a gunshot?
It did.
Did you do a third autopsy on July 20th of 2012?
Yes.
Whose autopsy was that?
That was on Jesse Childress.
And I'm going to approach and hand you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 437. Do you recognize that item?
I do.
Is that an item that you collected from the autopsy of Jesse Childress on July 20th of 2012?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admittance of People's Exhibit 437.
Ms. Brady, do you have any objection to P-TR-437?
No, sir.
All right, without objection, it is admitted.
If you could explain to the jury what that item is.
I had this labeled as 10 metal pellets from body Childress, and they're in this bag.
And do those appear to be shotgun pellets?
They do.
Did you do any other autopsies on July 20th of 2012?
We did not.
Did you return on Saturday, July 21st for additional autopsies?
Yes.
Whose was first in the morning?
I believe it was Jonathan Blanc.
And do you recall, was that, what time of the day it was? Early, midday, later day?
It was 9:30, around that time, if I recall correctly.
I'm going to hand you what have been marked as People's Exhibits 430, 431, 432, and 433. Do you recognize these items?
I do.
Are these items that were collected during the autopsy of Jonathan Block on July 21st of 2012?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would move for the admittance of People's Exhibits 430, 431, 432, and 433.
No objection.
Without objection, P-TR-430 through 433 inclusive are admitted.
Would you please look at Exhibit 430 first and explain to us what that is?
This is labeled foreign material from back wound, Blanc. It's just unknown material that was recovered.
Are they small items?
Yes.
People's Exhibit 431.
Labeled fragments from left ear, Blanc.
And again, are we talking about very small items?
Yes.
432.
Fragment behind left ear, Blanc.
Also small items?
Yes.
And People's Exhibit 433.
Labeled 2 bullet fragments, right chest, Blanc.
Did you do another autopsy on July 21st of 2012?
Yes.
Whose autopsy was next?
This was Alex Sullivan.
And in his autopsy, were any fragments or projectiles located in his body?
No,
Did he appear to have been a victim of a gunshot wound?
he did.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 435. Do you recognize that item?
I do.
Where was that collected?
That was under Mr. Sullivan's body on the gurney with him.
Your Honor, I would move for the admittance of People's Exhibit 435.
Is there any objection to P-TR-435?
I'd object under 401 and 403.
Can I see that, please? Would counsel approach, please? The objection is sustained.
Did you do another autopsy, a sixth autopsy, between July 20th and 21st on the late afternoon of, or during the afternoon of July 21st?
Yes.
Do you recall who the victim was that autopsy was for?
The last one was for Michaela Medic.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked as People's Exhibits 446, 447, 448, and 449. Do you recognize all of these objects?
I do.
Were these items that were taken from the autopsy of Michaela Medic on July 21st of 2012?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would move for the admittance of People's Exhibits 446, 447, 448, and 449.
Is there any objection, Ms. Brady?
No, sir.
All right, without objection, P-TR-446, 447, 448, and 449 are admitted.
And if I could first have you look at People's Exhibit 446 and explain what that is.
This is a ticket stub for the movie that was recovered from the right front pocket from Ms. Medic.
People's Exhibit 447.
This is a bullet fragment that was recovered from the mid-spine.
448.
Bullet fragment, right chest cavity.
And 449.
Bullet fragment, left lung.
And were all of those items collected during the autopsy of Michaela Medic on July 21st of 2012?
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions.
Ms. Brady, do you have any cross-examination?
I don't. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. There do not appear to be any questions from the jury. May this witness be released from her subpoena, Ms. Pearson?
She may, Your Honor, and I would ask to publish the physical exhibits to the jury.
All right. Do you have any objection, Ms. Brady, to this witness being released from her subpoena?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The request to publish is granted. So, Ms. Gerlings and Ms. Zagel, if you would, please. You're not asking to publish any of the diagrams, right?
From the diagrams from prior witnesses?
Right.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you. The record should reflect that we just finished publishing those exhibits. The people may call their next witness.
The people call Brian Miller.
Sir, could I have you raise your right hand so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please be seated. Please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names.
Brian Frederick Miller, B-R-I-A-N, F-R-E-D-E-R-I-C-K, and M-I-L-L-E-R.
Ms. Pearson, you may proceed with your direct examination.
Who do you work for, sir?
I'm employed with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives,
What is your job title?
a special agent.
What do you do for ATF?
I investigate alleged federal crimes of firearms, arson, or explosives violations
How long have you worked at the ATF?
for 9.5 years.
Did you work in law enforcement prior to joining ATF?
Yes, I did.
Where was that?
I worked for the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office here in Colorado as a deputy for just over 6 years.
On July 20th of 2012, were you asked to respond to the shooting at the Century 16 Theater in Aurora?
I was.
What were you asked to come and do?
I was asked to respond, and then once I got on scene, I was asked to assist with the crime scene at the back parking lot of the theater.
Were you asked to do anything with regard to the firearms that had been identified as belonging to the defendant?
Yes, I was asked to help identify firearms and make them safe.
What kind of experience do you have working with firearms?
Well, I've been a law enforcement officer for almost 16 years, so I carry a sidearm on my hip almost daily, pretty much daily. I have to qualify 4 times a year at a minimum, 1 to 2 days. I was a vault custodian for a couple years with the ATF, so I handled hundreds of firearms, checking them in and out of the vault, various different types of firearms, so I guess with a lot of experience.
Were you asked to work with a specific firearm, a firearm that had been located in a particular place at the theater?
Yes, I was.
Where was that?
It was located in the passenger door.
When you got to the theater, was the defendant's car pointed out to you?
It was.
At the time that you were asked to retrieve the firearm?
Yes.
At the time you were asked to do that, where was this firearm located?
So it was located inside of a holster, inside of kind of a door, kind of the envelope area of the inside of the door panel of the passenger door.
The pocket that's at the bottom of the door?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been previously admitted and identified at Exhibit 705 as the Glock that was in the passenger door. Now, as I said, we've previously admitted this firearm, and it was identified as the one that was in the passenger door. When you took it out of the passenger door, what were you asked to do with this?
I was asked to visually inspect it and make it safe.
What does make it safe mean?
Make it safe means to remove the ammunition, check that it's not loaded anymore with any live ammunition rounds, and lock it into a safe position so that even if it fired and there's no ammunition in it, it'd be safe.
What did you observe about it when you immediately took it out of the door pocket?
I took it out, and it was in the holster. So when I removed the firearm from the holster, I observed that it had weight to it. Once I pulled the slide back and locked it into place, I removed the magazine and noticed that it was full of live ammunition rounds.
If you're able to hold this gun up, and I may have you step down, and there's a wireless mic there, to explain where the slide is and what you had to do in order to unload the magazine from it.
Okay.
Anywhere.
microphone here. I will hold this. If we can just sort of stand in here, and I'll have you, so that the jury can see it, if you can hold up the gun, and I'll handle the microphone while you explain what you had to do and how this worked. And I'll ask you to stay right behind this, essentially.
So this top part that slides back is just called the slide. You pull it back and it will lock into place safely. You have to pull it back far enough. And then there's a little button you could push to remove the magazine, which is kind of, people call them clips if you've seen that on movies or something. Technically they're called magazines in a firearm like this. So you remove that. And when you do that, you can observe inside the chamber, which is the end part of the barrel, if there's a round of ammunition in there or not. There was not at that time. It was just loaded into the magazine.
So the gun had been loaded with a magazine, but a round had not been chambered.
That's correct, yes. Yes.
What would you have to do in order to be able to fire the gun?
You would have to pull back this slide right here, which one then kind of automatically it lifts a round of ammunition, and then when you let go of the slide, it slams back into position, loading a round of ammunition into the barrel, the chamber, which is part of the barrel there.
And then it's ready to fire.
And it's ready. Then you just pull the trigger.
Once you had removed the magazine from the handgun, what did you do with the handgun and the magazine?
I handed both with the holster to one of the FBI evidence response team personnel. I'm not sure who it was.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions.
Mr. King, do you have any cross-examination?
I do not, thank you.
And the jury does not appear to have any questions for this witness. May this witness be released from his subpoena.
He may, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Call your next witness, please.
Jared Stiger, Your Honor.
Around this way, please. If I could have you raise your right hand for me so that I can administer an oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
All right, please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Jared Paul Stiger, Jared Paul, then Steiger.
And, sir, I'm going to ask you to sit up and move the microphone close to your mouth, please, so that we can all hear you. Thank you. Mr. Orman, you may proceed.
Thank you. Sir, I want to ask you about July and August of 2012. Where were you working back then?
Target.
Specifically, what was your job for, and by Target, you mean the stores?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, what was your job with Target?
I was a Target Protection Specialist, TPS.
All right, what does that mean?
It's just when you walk in the store, I'm a uniform security guard to kind of, as just a presence, a deterrent for shoplifters and such. Review video, things of that nature.
Did you work at a particular Target store?
My home store was the one in Glendale, Colorado, 1806 off of Colorado and Alameda, but I was asked to help out at various stores if they needed coverage.
Now, we have a Target store involved in this case.
Yes, sir.
Do you know which one that is?
Yes, sir.
Which one is that?
It's store 1471. It's off Alameda and 225.
In Aurora?
Yes, sir.
What was you said you would help out in relation to that store. Can you explain in general what your duties were? And you specifically, you talked about video and things like that. So actually, before I ask you what your duties were you familiar with the way that the video system in that store worked?
Yes.
And is there a number to that store?
It was store 1471.
How did the video system in that store work, and how was it set up?
It was basically a live feed. Some cameras had certain hold times. Some had a month, some had a week, 2 weeks, depending on.
Why don't you slow down a little
Sorry.
bit and let me stop you there. First of all, you said it was a live feed. What does that mean?
It means if you're sitting in front of the cameras, you can watch what's going on at that moment, or if you need to do a quick review, you can go do a quick review, go back, however far you need to go back, up to a certain point.
And then you said certain cameras had a hold time. What does that mean?
It depends on the camera. Like our higher theft items had a longer hold period. If it's like pretty much that, depending where the camera was located.
What's a hold period mean?
The footage has a retention period up to a certain point. And after that period, like if you have to go back to like further than that retention period, it's not there anymore.
And where were the cameras situated around the Target store?
The 1471?
Yes, sir.
You had I think 2 parking lot cameras, a camera in each entrance and exit vestibule, a camera pointing toward the grocery section. When you walk in, you'll see all of that. Electronics, the back corner, the back room, the TPS office, the reception area for the store.
And were the video files generated during this hold period, were they kept on some kind of server where you could access
Yes.
them? How would you go, and one thing you got to do, this is not like a normal conversation
Okay.
that you have in the world. You got to wait for me to completely finish my question. Otherwise, it drives the court reporter crazy.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm new to this, so.
Yeah, I understand. I
Okay.
understand. So, why don't you explain to me that, let's say if I said, okay, I want you to find a specific customer or specific bit of video from a specific day, how would you go about doing that?
There were multiple ways. Either you have their name, I could type it into our little system, it'll bring up a list of transactions under that name. I could find a certain date. If you have a credit card information, I could go back and find that credit card. If you have a receipt of that they purchased, I could type in the receipt number and it'll bring up that day, that transaction, what they bought. And there's various ways of.
And this is all part of the record-keeping system for Target kept
Yes,
in
sir.
the regular course of business?
Yes, sir.
Let's say I said, okay, well, I want to look at video from a particular store and just pick a date out, any date, but just a particular one at a particular time. And I said to you, okay, I want you to go pull me the video from that store, that date, that time. Were you able to do that?
If I'm at that store, yes.
Okay, and in other words, it's not some central location, you actually have to go to the store to do it. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Now, could you guide me through, let's say I wanted you to do that, guide me through the equipment that would you use and the procedure that you would go through to go pull that video?
Okay. Man, I don't remember. I know they've upgraded since because I still ask questions when I talk to DPSs. There were 2 different programs. We had the live feed program, which you'd open up and all the cameras would pop up. And for review, we'd have to go to, I forget the program name, but we'd open it up, and then from there we can select a certain camera, a time, a date. There's another way of doing it. Type in name, credit card information, dates. But you click on a certain camera. You could either scroll the timeline and find what you're looking for, or type in a certain time and date, really specific time. Click search, and boom.
Now, after the events that happened at the Aurora Century 16 Theater on July 20th, 2012, did you get a visit from the Federal Bureau of Investigation asking if you could pull video related to a particular transaction?
I did.
Your Honor, I'm going to use a previously admitted exhibit if that's okay.
Yes?
Can you hand me that cordless microphone?
Yes.
Can I ask a couple questions up here at the bench, Your Honor?
You can.
At the stand?
Yes.
Sir, I'm handing you what has been marked for identification, actually been admitted as People's Exhibit 471, and it's sort of this Target receipt. Why don't you take a quick look at that for me?
Yeah.
Is that a receipt from that Target store?
It is.
You got to talk into the microphone.
It is, yes, sorry.
And is this the receipt that the FBI asked you if you could find video for that purchase?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can put that down for a second. Were you able to determine what register that was associated with?
I was.
What register is that?
16.
How many, if you can remember, how many registers were in that store?
I don't recall off the top of my head.
Did register 16, have a camera that would allow you to say, okay, this is the exact purchase that we're talking about?
Unfortunately, no. I remember the footage I did review and what I tried to, for the FBI agent, what I tried to burn for him, and it was just out of eye shot. Like, it was just so far in where you couldn't see anything that happened.
Were you given a description, or were you able to see photographs of the defendant before you pulled the video?
I knew what I was looking for when he came in asking me if I could locate the subject.
Had you seen pictures of the defendant on TV?
Yes, sir.
And did you know what he looked like?
Yes, sir.
And specifically, did you know anything about his hair color?
I did.
What color hair were you looking for?
Orange.
Were you able then to, and what time was that transaction? If you could take a look at that exhibit again.
2:58 p.m.
2:58 p.m. Were you able to pull video showing someone with that hair color entering the store before 2:58 and leaving thereafter?
Yes, sir.
You may.
I've handed you what has been marked for identification purposes as People's Exhibit 368. Have you seen that before?
I have.
Do you know what that is?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
This is the surveillance footage from that day. Him entering Target, shopping, exiting.
How do you know that is what's on that video?
Because I burned it.
Well, and then this copy here, have you looked at that particular disc?
Yes.
How do you know that?
I initialed it.
And did you put a date on that?
I did.
Your Honor, I move to admit People's Exhibit 368.
Is there any objection?
No, sir.
Without objection, P-TR-368 is admitted and may be published.
Thank you. And what I'd like to do, Your Honor, is publish it and then periodically pause it so that the witness can describe where we are in the target when we're watching.
All right. I'm going to dim the lights at this time.
And for the court's information, Your Honor, this video is 1 minute, 14 seconds long.
And it has no sound, correct?
Right. Actually, before we play the video, I'd like to ask a question about that. Does the surveillance system at Target capture sound?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Please play the video. All right, if we can pause this, please. What area of the store are we looking at?
That is the west side entrance. There's a Starbucks there, and that's just as you walk in the door. There's a shopping carts, the corral right to your left there, and that's the entrance.
Do you see in front of you there is a mouse?
Yeah.
And a monitor? See if you can move that around.
Oh,
All right, where's the Starbucks?
Right there.
Okay, and then the entrance?
Right here.
And now down at the bottom is a code, it looks like, it with, what is that? The black box down at the lower left-hand corner.
That's the timestamp, the date, the time.
And are those generally accurate?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Please resume the playback. Can we pause that, please? Is that the person, when you looked at it, that you identified with the orange hair?
Yes, sir.
Please continue. Can we pause that again? Is that the person?
Yes, sir.
All right, please continue. And actually, if we can pause for one more second. We saw the person go off camera in the lower right-hand portion of the video. From your memory, do you know what that was towards, where that would go?
That was the produce section, the deli, fruits, veggies, bread, things of that nature.
Now, is this one of these Target stores that's also a full grocery store?
Yes, sir.
You gotta wait again. What's the answer to the question?
Yes, it's a super Target. They have everything.
Okay. Please continue. What are we looking, pause please. All right, what are we looking at here?
That's the exit vestibule.
And now the time says what time is that?
3 p.m.
Later than the first one?
Yes.
Okay, please resume. Please pause. Again, is that the person that you identified?
Yes, sir.
All right, please continue.
All right, I'm going to turn the lights back on.
Can I have the court's indulgence for a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have no further direct examination. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Brady, do you have any cross-examination?
No, thank you.
And the jury does not appear to have any questions. May this witness be released from his subpoena, Mr. Orman?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Is there any objection?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, members of the jury, it's 3 o'clock, so let's go ahead and take our afternoon break at this time. Let's take 20 minutes, please. Make sure you abide by all my advisements, okay? Thank you. Enjoy your break. The record should reflect the jury has left the courtroom now. Please be seated, everyone. Is there anything we need to talk about at this time on behalf of the prosecution? No?
Your Honor, I need the next 3 court exhibit numbers, so actually Mr. Orman was wrong. And so if I get the next 3 numbers for court exhibits.
Now you have not only the defense saying that you're wrong, Mr. Orman, your own colleagues are saying you're wrong.
I'm used to that, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Pearson, I'm sorry, what did you say?
I need the next 3 court exhibit numbers and
27 through 30. Actually, 27, 28, 29. Anything on behalf of the defense at this time?
No.
No? Okay. See you after the break. The court will be in recess. Thank you.